Tonight, 5 strangers attacked at random in one man's stabbing rampage across Melbourne. Breaking news, at least 8 people taken to hospital in a critical condition after falling violently ill at a Flemington festival. Deadly gunfire in Melbourne's north. 1 man dead, part of a group attempting a home invasion. Wild weather lashes Victoria. We have live warnings of what's to come in the hours ahead. More than 170 planes grounded after a terrifying mid-air emergency. And the young cricket fan who'll never forget the day David Warner retired.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Blake Johnson starts now.
Good evening. A man with a bag of knives has attacked 5 strangers as they walked around Melbourne. The 31-year-old was eventually chased down by PSOs in South Yarra. And a warning, parts of this report are confronting.
An innocent man attacked with no warning. The second victim in a random stabbing rampage. One of the 5 lives threatened across Melbourne in 4 separate attacks, allegedly by 1 man. Witnesses at first unaware, then shocked, before rushing to help, one even using his shirt to stop the bleeding. The suspect ran from King Street.
On each occasion, the victims were minding their own business. They wouldn't have even known that they were about to be attacked.
Another attack, this time on an English tourist in St Kilda, also caught on camera. Witnesses say the victim tried to defend himself before the accused attacker fled.
We believe at this particular time he's used the public transport service, whether it's trains or trams.
Police are still trying to work out a motive. Detectives quick to say it wasn't terrorism related. The violence unfolded over 3 hours, leaving 5 people in hospital. The first victim was on City Road, South Bank. A 28-year-old man attacked at 9:20 p.m, taken to hospital with injuries to his body and legs. A 24-year-old man then stabbed outside a burger store on King Street at 10 o'clock. He was taken to the Alfred with leg injuries.
He lunges at the male from behind. The victim wouldn't have known it was coming.
An hour later, 2 people ambushed while walking along Dandenong Road. A 31-year-old woman was rushed to the Alfred with critical injuries from multiple stab wounds. Her partner suffered a significant laceration to his arm.
She was stabbed multiple times. She's probably the one that's received the most significant wound.
Around 12:30 this morning, the 4th and final attack. A British tourist left injured on Auckland Street. The suspect was then spotted by PSOs on a train and taken down on Powell Street just after 1 a.m.
OC or capsicum spray was deployed to subdue him. He certainly resisted police at the time of arrest.
I was woken up by a loud screaming noise from a male voice. Someone was screaming, "Stand still, put your hands by your side."
A bag containing multiple weapons was found at the scene. Police say it's possible more than 1 knife was used in the attacks. That's left residents across the city on edge.
When I arrived this morning to open up, there was all this blood on the pavement. A significant amount of blood.
A 31-year-old Melton man was charged 13 hours after the arrest. He's accused of 15 offences, including causing serious injury in circumstances of gross violence, intentionally causing injury and possessing a controlled weapon.
And Sarah Jane Bell is at the Alfred tonight. Sarah Jane, 5 people are still in hospital.
4 here at the Alfred, Blake, including a 31-year-old woman who was rushed here with critical injuries. Her condition has tonight thankfully improved. She is now serious but stable after being stabbed multiple times in St Kilda East. 2 men are still here being treated for serious injuries. The other 2 victims are in a stable condition, one here at the Alfred, the other at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. The 31-year-old Melton man accused of going on the rampage remains in police custody tonight. He will likely face a magistrate tomorrow morning. Police have already indicated that they will oppose any potential bail application in a bid to keep the community safe. Blake.
Sarah Jane, thank you. We have some breaking news now. At least 8 partygoers have been taken to hospital in a critical condition after falling ill at a Flemington racecourse rave. Details are coming in to Rochelle Brown. Rochelle, patients were taken to hospitals right across the city.
Blake, it's believed this mass overdose happened over several hours last night. Ambulance Victoria says 8 people were taken to hospital in a critical condition. It's understood 7 of those required breathing tubes to be inserted by mobile intensive care paramedics. 3 text messages were sent from Ambulance Victoria to paramedics calling for backup because of the number of patients at the music festival. It's possible a much higher number may have been treated but weren't taken to hospital. It's believed they overdosed on MDMA. Ambulance officers say a warm day could have exacerbated symptoms, particularly in a large festival tent as temperatures soared past 30 degrees. Event organisers haven't responded to requests for comment from 7 News today. Several of the patients remain critical tonight. Blake?
Rochelle Brown in the newsroom, thank you. A suspected armed intruder has been shot dead during a home invasion in Melbourne's north. Police believe up to 5 men were involved in the targeted attack, with gunfire ringing out across suburban streets early this morning.
A botched home invasion in the middle of a new Donnybrook estate. A nearby security camera capturing the sound of 5 shots in under 4 seconds. One intruder shot dead, another undergoing emergency surgery, and a female resident slashed with a machete.
It's a shocking incident when you look at the fact that the injury sustained by the female was with a machete in her own home. The whole thing is, very concerning.
Police say up to 5 men stormed to the Middlemount Street property armed with a handgun and a large knife. Their targets, a man and a woman inside, but their motive is still unclear.
The male resident appears to have confronted these males. There's been some sort of struggle, and a firearm has been claimed off one of the offenders who's come into the house.
After the deadly confrontation, the 27-year-old woman managed to drive herself 11 kilometres away to Doreen, where police say they found the handgun.
This time we feel too much scared. We're living with our small child.
Today, bullets found in the next street away from the home understood to have fallen out of one of the attacker's pockets in a frantic hurry to escape.
I just moved to this house on Wednesday, so it was a bit scary, but I didn't come out from the house because, I don't know what's going on.
Police want to stress to local families in the area that even though this was a targeted attack, they will be stepping up their patrols as a measure of reassurance.
Obviously, it's quite a shocking incident, but as I say, we do not believe it is related to anything beyond that household.
And Cassie's at police headquarters for us tonight. Cassie, no charges so far.
Well, Blake, police say this investigation is a complex one as they work to determine exactly what happened and how one intruder ended up dead. At least 3 men linked to the home invasion are on the run. As for the male resident, well, he's currently being questioned by detectives from the homicide squad, but 7 News understands he's not currently under arrest. His partner remains in hospital with serious injuries after being slashed with a machete, and tonight detectives are probing if there's any links to organised crime. Blake.
Cassie Zervos with a live update. Thank you. There's a weather alert in place across much of Victoria as we go to air tonight, with a huge band of rain sweeping right across the state. Bethan Yeoman is in Broadford tonight. Beth, we're already hearing some enormous rainfall totals coming in.
Blake, Warrnambool copped 43 mils in the space of 1 hour today. Bendigo drenched with 46 since 9 o'clock this morning. Broadford, where I am now, could see another 15 mils fall in the coming hours, and the city is bracing for even more than that overnight. Filling up fast. The Dudley Street underpass caused traffic chaos as rain thrashed down on the city this afternoon. It wasn't long before a car needed to be rescued from the flooding. The tropical deluge began in the state's north earlier this morning, coming down thick and fast in Kahuna. Before travelling southeast, Bendigo, one of the worst hit, with 46 mils of rain falling since 9 a.m.
Bendigo and Kerrang have been our most busiest units. Across the state, we've had about 260 requests for assistance. About 120 of those have been for flooding.
Hundreds of locals queued for sandbags as an official flood watch was declared for central and northern Victoria. 7 truckloads delivered to these showgrounds alone.
We will get flooded. It just keeps filling up and filling up.
How long have you been waiting?
Probably about 35 minutes.
The weather over the last couple of weeks has really made them very alert and aware of, how close things are to flooding.
Both Seymour and Yea were in the eye of the storm as it swept over central Victoria.
Heavy rainfall is the greatest risk with severe thunderstorms. Even with normal, non-severe thunderstorms, we may see some locally heavier downpours.
Residents and business owners on high alert, hoping it wouldn't be a repeat of last week.
A couple of days ago we lost power for almost 24 hours. Businesses couldn't really run well, we were put behind.
Most of us workers are actually going to be staying at our friends' houses because we can't get back home.
The Weather Bureau warns the worst is yet to come. Meteorologists say rain rates will increase into this evening, meaning a lot of rain will fall within a short space of time, which could trigger flash flooding across the state. The weather is not expected to ease until Tuesday, Blake.
All right, Bethan, thank you. Aviation authorities in the US have grounded Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes after part of an aircraft ripped off midair. The exit on the plane had been modified as wall panelling.
From pilots to air traffic control, it was decisive.
We'll have to go down.
And urgent.
Last aircraft, say again. Center Alaska, Trouble to declare an emergency. We're descending down to 10,000.
Depressurised is what the cockpit alarms were showing, and for passengers, this was their view.
We need to descend down to 10,000. Are you going to need any assistance on the ground? Yes, we need assistance. We've declared an emergency, and we have 177 passengers on board.
One boy learned the life-saving lesson of seatbelts.
And his shirt was sucked off him and out of the plane, and his mother was holding on to him.
An exit on this plane had been modified as wall panelling.
It's got a window and it is in the emergency exit door. It's deactivated. The problem is with this one, and the reason they're all grounded, is obviously it's not a plug type door.
In other words, a door larger than the cavity it inhabits, which means it can't fall out.
But the aircraft was a very new aircraft, only produced and entered service a couple of months ago.
A Boeing 737 MAX plummeted in Indonesia in 2018 and Ethiopia in 2019, 400 dead. The Federal Aviation Administration in the US is tonight grounding dozens of 737 MAX 9s across the country.
We could have ended up with something so much more tragic, and we're really fortunate that did not occur here.
CASA is investigating here but has no plans to ground similar aircraft. Rob Novadia, 7 News.
A woman in her 90s has been found alive in the rubble almost a week after the devastating Japan earthquake. She'd been trapped for 5 days in a flattened building. It's believed she was suffering from hypothermia but was still responsive. More than 120 people have been found dead after the powerful quake. A further 200 are still missing. The Greens are threatening to sink the federal government's scheme designed to help 40,000 Australians become homeowners. It's set to dominate Parliament when it returns next month, with calls for a rent freeze.
In the two houses of Parliament, the nation's housing woes will be front and centre again.
In 2024, Labor's housing crisis looks set to get worse for Australians.
It's a real shame that every time Labor tries to build more homes, the Greens get in the way.
Last year, it took 8 months to pass the government's Housing Australia Future Fund, the Greens holding out until negotiating $3 billion for public housing. Now they're threatening to do it again.
Stop tinkering around the edges.
The Albanese government wants to pass its Help to Buy housing scheme this year. It'll assist 40,000 people into home ownership, but the government takes a 40% equity stake in new homes, 30% for existing properties.
Which is about helping renters into the housing market.
The Coalition's housing spokesman has labelled the scheme underwhelming, meaning Labor will likely need the Greens to pass it.
We'll have a look at it, but we will push Labor to take the housing crisis seriously, to start freezing rents, building more public homes.
Housing affordability is a vote winner.
It's really hard to find a place at the moment.
I think it's got to do with lack of shortage of housing.
With 76% of Australians frustrated by a lack of action.
What you need to do is to get councils approving more stuff.
House hunters and the government will be hoping to avoid a repeat of 2023, the year from hell, when property prices jumped 8% and the official cash rate soared to 4.35%.
It's unlikely that rates will go up any further. You couldn't rule it out. If they do come down, it'll be at the end of 2024.
Josh Martin, 7 News.
One young cricket fan has scored himself a piece of Australian sporting history after David Warner handed over his helmet and gloves at the end of his final test. Now Brodie Quinn is hatching a plan to meet his hero.
From scoring runs in his front yard to running away with a piece of Australian sporting history.
Well, that is one lucky kid. Helmet and gloves.
Brodie Quinn's still coming to terms with his good luck.
I was pretty stoked when I got it. I ran back. It was a good opportunity to get it when he was walking out of his last test match.
At the SCG for David Warner's last test, the 12-year-old thought he'd try for the batsman's gloves.
And he saw the boy get it at lunch that he thought, I'm going to go back down there and see what I can get.
He made the run to the fence with dozens of others.
Warner, please give me your gloves. And I was like, Warner, here, please.
Returning to his shocked family with not just gloves, but the batsman's helmet.
Very sweaty. It stunk.
The family's walls were already lined with cricketing memorabilia. A Shane Warne piece hangs by Brodie's bed, but Warner's helmet and gloves now take pride of place.
I think it takes the cake, really. I think this is it's the uniqueness of it, really. Probably beats anything that we've got. It's really special to have.
Not content on simply owning the gear, young Brodie now wants David Warner to sign it. He'll be back here at the SCG on Friday to watch Warner play in the BBL and is intent on tracking him down.
I want to try and get him to sign it, sign the helmet, sign the gloves, and then get it framed somehow.
Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Well, that is one.
We're priceless. Selectors are still weighing up who'll fill the gap left by David Warner's departure. Macca, there is plenty of interest.
Well, Blake, one Aussie star has been campaigning busy for weeks, while a forgotten Aussie opener issues a plea to replace the retired Warner.
I feel like I definitely, owe it to my country.
Plus, Rory Lobb reveals what's driving him at the Bulldogs for season 2024, and Blake will also have an update on a sore Rafael Nadal ahead of the Australian Open.
OK, Macca, see you soon. Thank you. A surging number of fringe candidates with wild, sometimes violent views are planning to run for local councils across Melbourne. Details are next in 7 News. Also ahead, Melbourne's roadworks pain is far from over. What drivers need to know. The Victorian town paying tribute to Olympic cyclist Melissa Hoskins. Later, how Lamb is helping close Australia's generation gap in Sam Kekovich's latest campaign.
And heavy rain continues into tonight and tomorrow with warnings in place. I'll have the details soon on 7 News.
There's been an emotional tribute for Olympian Melissa Hoskins at the Cycling National Championships in Ballarat.
Mel Hoskins, she was a world champion, a dual Olympian, but she was so much more than that. She was a mother of two, she was a friend to many. Unfortunately, Mel is no longer with us, so the entire peloton, the town of Buninyong, paid tribute to her with a minute's silence.
The 32-year-old Olympian died after she was struck in Adelaide by a car being driven by her husband, Rowan Dennis. The champion cyclist has been charged over the crash. Melbourne motorists are being warned to prepare for 3 months of traffic trouble. Major roadworks begin in the coming days in a race to deliver the troubled Westgate Tunnel project.
We got a taste of it over Christmas. Now motorists are bracing for day one of 3 straight months of traffic pain.
We estimate this could add another 20 to 30 minutes to people's journeys.
New work on the Westgate Freeway starts 9 p.m. Wednesday. The second stage of the Wurundjeri Way City Bypass kicks off 2 days later, a summer construction blitz for the troubled Westgate Tunnel project.
We will have closures again for Wurundjeri Way, Dudley Street
and lane closures on Footscray Road.
The ramp to the ring road will shut for 9 days. Traffic will be reduced to 3 lanes in both directions for asphalting until March, and there'll be occasional night closures on sections of the Westgate and the Princes Freeway until mid this year.
The project is $5 billion over budget and it's at least 3 years late.
There'll be hundreds of people working on the job and it will be 24/7.
Workers will lay 45,000 tonnes of asphalt. 46 overhead gantries will be installed.
The state government says contingencies are in place for wet weather to deliver these works on time, but we'll go through it all again the following summer when works on the eastern section begin.
Detour signage will be in place. Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
A Florida city has felt the full force of a tornado, producing a dramatic light show. Sparks were sent flying from power lines, flashing as the twister barreled through Fort Lauderdale. So far, no injuries have been reported, and despite the wild scenes, the damage is minor. Extremism experts warn a surging number of fringe candidates are making a run for local councils across the state. Many have violent and extremist views and are looking for opportunities to share them within local communities.
Free speech is important, but
democracy is not a perfect system.
Warning, October's 79 council elections won't be like anything we've seen before, with anti-government groups mobilising to get a foot in the door.
My place, one particular group, was a sovereign citizen group, that hold some pretty extreme and conspiratorial views that believe that the current government are not legitimate, anti-Semitic material, far-right material.
Its members have already stood in state and federal elections, the bar a little lower for local government. Extremism expert Dr. Josh Roos says similar groups have been successful in Western and South Australia.
They believe that citizens shouldn't pay taxes, that fines don't apply to them. We would see a collapse of services, even the basics of roads, rubbish and rates that would collapse.
There's no preclusion for people standing. It's really about the electors being aware of what they might be electing in the context of this group.
Reforms are set to be introduced this year, which include new ministerial powers to suspend or disqualify councillors found to have been preventing council from performing its function.
Would be my expectation that people who are running, have the freedom to put forward their views and their opinions in a safe way.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
The City of Melbourne has missed its target of planting 3,000 trees in a year. The council fell short by about 900, planting just 2,100 in the past year. A spokesperson for the council says the shortfall is because of difficulties planting trees in residential streets and the inner city. The Southbank Residents Association is calling on the council to hit its targets, saying its suburb is desperate for green space. Melburnians are ditching public transport in record numbers, and that's having an impact on our roads. Details ahead in 7 News. Also, plans to cut Victoria's reliance on coal are up in the air. Donald Trump's latest move 3 years on from the insurrection. And meet the 93-year-old woman still taking on Victoria's most famous swim. Public transport's on the nose. The number of us using it has fallen significantly in the past 4 years. Changing work habits and more expensive fares are creating new patterns in patronage. Ditching my keys for car keys. More of us are shunning public transport, opting to hit the road. Passenger numbers on trains, trams and buses have plummeted since the pandemic. 13 million fewer users in October 2023 compared to 2019. Down almost a quarter in 4 years.
A lot of that is a reduction in CBD peak hour trips in particular. That's obviously a consequence of more people working from home these days.
But those still headed to the office are now flooding our roads. The state government's roadworks blitz described as a short-term fix.
We know from the past that when they expand major roads, there's some relief from the traffic for a short time, but in the longer term, traffic grows to fill up that space. Really, they should be encouraging more people onto public transport.
Instead, the cost of daily full fare tickets was hiked by 60 cents on January 1, marking the second fare increase in just 6 months. Recently released Department of Transport data shows passenger numbers were already down 30% between Monday and Friday in June before the fare hikes. Weekends are better, Saturday's down just over 1%, but an unlikely winner, Sunday bus services report an increase in passengers.
Work patterns have changed, more people are working from home, but still people are getting out for other trips. Public transport needs to adapt to that.
Proposed renewable energy infrastructure is at risk as investors wait for planning approvals from the state government. The projects are needed to reduce the reliance on coal power and cut electricity prices.
We are paying the highest power prices in the country, and yet we have a government that can't even process planning applications for renewable projects in a timely manner.
We absolutely have to get the approvals right. I mean, I think that it's not a case where somebody can just lob in an application and it's a tick and flick exercise.
The Allen government wants 95% of all electricity to come from renewable energy by 2035. 3 years on from the January 6 riots in Washington, former President Donald Trump has gone from defending the rioters to using them as campaign props. He hopes that that'll help return him to the White House, but tonight, new video from that day reveals a different outlook.
It's the rioters' perspective 3 years on. Trying to breach the door leading into the House chamber.
Go find another door, everybody.
Barricaded inside, members of Congress guarded by armed Capitol Police officers.
You guys are not going to lose a paycheck if we come in the building, man.
The pro-Trump rioters stormed the United States Capitol in the wake of his election defeat. Tonight, it's part of his rallying cry as he campaigns for re-election.
But if you're with us, they put you in jail. Look at what's happened with the J6 hostages. The hostages, that's a horrible thing.
He called the riot peaceful before comparing it to immigrants crossing into the US illegally.
When you talk about insurrection, what they're doing, that's the real deal. That's the real deal, not patriotically and peacefully.
Some so-called leaders still try to mislead and gaslight by claiming it was a peaceful protest.
USA! USA!
The former president has his own legal challenges tied to that day. He faces a federal indictment for his role in trying to overturn the 2020 results, and the US Supreme Court will decide if he can be banned from state ballots for engaging in insurrection. Despite his mounting legal battles, he remains the Republican frontrunner. In the United States, Smiley Hogan, 7 News.
5 children are among those dead after a Russian missile strike in eastern Ukraine. Kyiv accuses Moscow of cynically hitting civilians after the shelling attack on a city outside of Donetsk. 11 people were killed, 10 more wounded. Ukraine also claims to have evidence missiles fired into Kharkiv last week were supplied by North Korea. Video has been released showing the second of a pair of deadly blasts in Iran. The bomb went off right by a group of people and parked cars, as well as a moving bus. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack, which happened in the city of Kerman. The twin bombings have claimed at least 91 lives. A 93-year-old grandmother is in her final week of training, about to become the oldest swimmer at Lorne's Pier Pub. 5,000 people have signed up for the event, bringing Victoria's Surf Coast a major tourism boost.
Doncaster grandmother Dorothy Dickey is making waves at this year's Lorne Pier Pub. The 93-year-old will be the oldest swimmer in the water and is marking 38 years competing in the annual ocean swim.
The course is just, you just swim out to the start line and then go from there into the shore, which is great.
Swimming has taken Dorothy around the country and even overseas, but it all started in Melbourne's east.
Daughter came home one day and said, "Mother, you have to come and join the Doncaster Dolphins." I said, "I can't swim good enough." She said, "You can." So I've been there ever since. That's since 1961.
The athlete is in the water following the black line 4 days a week.
Everybody's swimming, and then we have a nice, very long cup of coffee up there at the cafe. So you meet people, so that's nearly a whole day gone, just doing a bit of a swim.
The retiree is among more than 5,000 people who've signed up for the 1.2-kilometre swim next Saturday.
It's the busiest day of the entire year for all the businesses in town. We're looking at a low 20s temperature day, so it's perfect conditions for a swim out there.
With some advice from a race veteran.
Don't rush it, because if you rush it, you're going to run out of puff. So you just take it easy. If you've got anything left for the last 15 metres, 20 metres to go, give it all you got.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
And good luck, Dot. Lamb is being touted as the meat to bridge Australia's generation gap. It is the theme of Sam Kekovic's latest campaign, but it comes in the middle of a price pain at the checkout. Also ahead in 7 News, a wild brawl brings a brutal end to a major motorsport festival. Tragedy sparks freight industry calls for better standards of safety at remote level crossings. And our Greek Orthodox community marks an annual tradition off Port Melbourne's Princess Pier. Rail bosses are leading urgent calls for better safety standards at level crossings. There's a push for federal and state governments to join operators in a national forum. 2 rail workers were killed last week when a freight train and truck collided near the New South Wales border with South Australia.
We owe it to those families, the families of Mick and Kevin, to learn as much as we can from this event to make sure that we do what we can to prevent it from ever happening again.
On average, 28 people are killed at level crossings every year. A brawl has marred the end of a major motorsport festival in the nation's capital. Security guards traded punches with car fans in a brutal end to Summer Nats.
His high-vis vest reads crowd safety. His actions, anything but. A security officer dishes out a punch to a punter before retreating to his pack. It's not a boxing event you are watching, it's the annual Summer Nats Car Festival in Canberra yesterday. This reveller ambushed by 5 security officers and dragged along the ground.
Security smashing into him. That's wrong, man. I've got it on video. 10 security on one guy.
The string of brawls out of control. Until eventually the officers involved are ushered out into a waiting van. Security company Red Dawn's Facebook shut down today. No response to our inquiries. While this statement from Summer Nats: we are conducting a full investigation into the incident with our private security contractor and the police. Once we know what happened, we can take action from an event management perspective and the police can take action. So far, no arrests have been made. Grace Fitzgibbon, 7 News.
The latest annual lamb campaign has been launched off the back of a record summer of red meat sales. But some farmers are claiming consumers are being ripped off, now waging war with the supermarkets and calling for intervention.
Good morning, Boomertown.
A fictional tale of a very real struggle.
Watch out for the generation gap.
Classic boomers, making the gap bigger.
The recurring red meat gag.
Is that lamb?
Bringing everyone together.
An iconic Australian unifying catalyst. The great Australian barbecue full of succulent Australian lamb.
It's a barbecue for the ages.
Who's that? Oh, it's John Allen.
Lamb hasn't been more affordable than it is right now in the last 4 to 5 years.
This graph shows retail prices of beef and lamb almost tripling since the year 2000, with a slight drop last year.
We saw a 60% reduction in beef and sheep prices in June, and now we're seeing fruit prices and veggie prices are falling through the floor, but the prices at the checkout still haven't.
Farmers tell us shoppers are getting ripped off.
The consumer should be getting my zucchinis at a better price.
It costs Ross Marcelino $2 to produce a kilo of zucchinis. Supermarkets buy them for $2.20. Shoppers pay almost $7.
And there's no profit. Probably looking at pulling the pin this year and not growing next year.
The number of growers either going broke or committing suicide in this country is unprecedented.
The Nationals are tonight renewing calls for an ACCC supermarket inquiry in place of the Senate inquiry already underway.
That's all about lifting the level of transparency from supermarkets about the prices they're paying farmers, their other suppliers.
Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Dozens of young men from Melbourne's Greek Orthodox community have braved the rain to take part in the annual Blessing of the Waters off Princess Pier in Port Melbourne.
I've always backed myself. I've been a good swimmer since young. But, I was very surprised to win it.
Winning the race for the cross is said to bring a year of good luck. Motorsport's up with Andrew McCormack. Macca, we're just days away from knowing who will replace David Warner.
That's right, Blake. The campaigning has been going on for weeks for one Aussie star as a determined Cameron Bancroft hunts for his moment of redemption. Also, an umpiring blunder leaves Big Bash players up in arms. A Bulldog star tees off after a tough 2023 and the Demon enjoys an exclusive club. Welcome back. Cameron Bancroft has delivered an impassioned plea for a test recall, declaring he owes it to his country. Behind the scenes, Steve Smith has been lobbying to replace David Warner for weeks. A new era for Australia's test team. David Warner's replacement to be revealed later this week. Cameron Bancroft waiting anxiously by the phone for the selector's call.
I feel like I'm, physically, mentally and emotionally, ready to take that opportunity.
Almost 6 years since Cape Town, a lifetime for the now 31-year-old, desperate for another chance.
I owe it to my country to put those lessons into play.
Bancroft, the leading Sheffield Shield run scorer for 2 summers. Steve Smith pushing the case to open himself.
He's mentioned it throughout the last couple of weeks. He's put his views forward and we'll consider all options.
He really wants it. He wants that motivation. He wants that extra bit of something.
The numbers are in Smith's corner. He's come to the crease 47 times inside the first 10 overs of a test innings and averages over 61. 9 of his 32 test hundreds have started against the new ball.
Look, some players have been able to transition and go to the top and do really well, but I feel like it's probably a specialist position.
A private send-off for Warner at Sydney night spot The Ivy last night included a selfie with Aussie chart topper Tones and I. The Aussie squad to gather in Adelaide on Saturday for the first test against the West Indies starting in 10 days. No room for Scott Boland or Lance Morris in the 11 just yet. Josh Hazlewood sitting on 249 test wickets.
There's nothing to indicate that they'll need a rest.
The Melbourne Stars are just hanging on to their Big Bash final spot after the Sydney Sixers ended their 4-game winning streak. A blunder by TV umpire Paul Wilson left both sides confused when he accidentally pressed the wrong button at the MCG.
But he's out. Hang on. Surely they've pressed the wrong button. I know they're parochial over here in Victoria, but that's taking it to a new level.
Todd Murphy starred for the Sixers with 2 for 15, including the crucial wicket of Stars captain Glenn Maxwell. The Hurricanes can bump the Stars out of the BBL top 4 if they upset the undefeated Brisbane Heat. It's all live and free straight after the news tonight. Tennis Australia is expecting Rafael Nadal to play after a fresh hip injury threatened to derail his Australian Open campaign. It comes as Alex de Minaur caps off a red-hot lead into the tournament, reaching his goal of cracking the world's top 10.
1 week until the Australian Open, a record 426 ball kids chasing around the world's best, including, they hope, Rafael Nadal. Tournament chiefs optimistic he'll overcome a hip flare-up and play at Melbourne Park. Casper Ruud's fit and healthy. The 4th round, his best effort, the same as Alex de Minaur. Last night, the Demon roared his way into the world's top 10.
And there it is. De Minaur does it for Australia.
The first Aussie male to sit among the best in the sport since Leighton Hewitt 18 years ago.
To be able to do it in Sydney on Ken Rosal Arena in front of friends, family, it's a memory that I'll cherish forever.
The variety that Alex has been playing with has been fantastic, and that's another tool that he's added to his game.
3 big scalps in a week, Zverev, Djokovic and Taylor Fritz. All this from a player who supposedly has no weapons.
I saw it in the back of my head and I used it as motivation.
With no Nick Kyrgios, de Minaur gets his time in the spotlight.
Hopefully packed, great energy, and I'm stoked. I can't wait to start.
At the Brisbane International, a rematch of the Women's Aussie Open final from last year. Elena Rybakina turning the tables, wiping the floor with Arina Sabalenka.
A masterclass.
Brett Thomas, 7 News.
To footy, and Rory Lobb has hinted at a shift to more time in the ruck as the Bulldogs look to shake off a disappointing 2023. The 30-year-old also revealed how his mid-season axing fueled a late comeback.
A year spent navigating out of the rough, the Bulldogs know 2024 has to be different.
we don't want to be relying on other people and results, so we want to put ourselves in a better position, hopefully get a good start this season.
A guest at this week's Portsea Pro-Am, Lob's debut season at the kennel, much like his team's. Flashes of brilliance and a costly mid-season lean patch that saw the former Docker dumped to the VFL.
Yeah, I was actually saying to the boys, it was the first twos game that I've played in about 8 years. Through the middle part of the year, I wasn't playing, up to my standards, but I obviously finished off the year pretty well. So it was sort of a good move in the end for me to go down and get a little bit more confidence.
Recruited to provide firepower in attack, Lob bounced back to boot 12 goals in the final month. But it was a 10-minute burst from the centre square in the final game that could spark a tandem with All-Australian Tim English this year.
Yeah, probably a little bit more in the ruck. With that Cats game, it sort of worked pretty well where I jumped in there for a little bit longer. It's just trying to find the right balance between me playing forward and Tim playing forward, and just trying to give him different looks in the middle.
Extra flexibility for a coach known for switching his magnets, even if it means the experiment of 4 tall forwards is over for now.
We're all fighting for spots at the moment, which is a good place to be.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
After playing the likes of Messi's Argentina, the Socceroos are back dealing with the defensive and frustrating tactics that have tested them over the years at the Asian Cup. This morning, managing a 2-0 warm-up win over Bahrain. Mitch Duke's goal, the highlight.
Always great to play against opposition that play that way, so it was a perfect game that we could have had leading into the Asian Cup.
Their campaign starts against India on Saturday. In the A-League, a dramatic goal by substitute Ben Falami in the 96th minute clinched a 3-2 win for Melbourne Victory over Perth Glory.
That might just do it! Ben Falami sparks celebrations for the victory.
Earlier, Glory were reduced to 10 men when Bruce Kamau was sent off just after half-time. Victory is now leapfrog Wellington to sit on top of the A-League ladder. Meantime, Melbourne City is 2-1 up against Western United after a brilliant strike. His first goal in the A-League by Hamza Saki. The Adelaide 36ers have pulled off the upset of the NBL season, beating ladder leaders Melbourne United 100-96 in front of a sold-out home crowd. The 36ers still at the bottom of the table, while United has lost 2 of its past 3 games. Blake, that is all for sport.
Andrew, thank you very much. The forecast is next with Melina Sarris. Mel, there's more wet weather to come.
Blake, heavy rain continues tonight and into tomorrow with warnings still in place. I'll have all of those details right after the break.
The New Year medical test for all Melbourne GPs. The official clinic-by-clinic bulk billing examination.
Massive declines in bulk billing over the last couple of years.
How much are you paying to go to the doctor?
Hitting the hip pockets of everyday Australian.
The new changes. Will it be cheaper for you in 2024? On 7 News, Monday.
As the day breaks,
the news breaks on Sunrise.
The unfolding fire emergency. Breaking news, the Middle East is at flashpoint.
Start with what's unfolding.
The winds have picked up massively.
Start with the team Australia trusts.
One of the biggest issues that's facing the country at the moment.
Start with Sunrise.
Good evening. Showers and thunderstorms increased across the state today, and there's more severe weather on the way. It didn't drop below 23 degrees overnight and made it to a top of 27 early this morning. Outside now 21 degrees, and the city has had 12 millimetres of rain since 9 a.m. Widespread scattered showers delivered between 10 and 50 millimetres across the state. There is a storm warning in place for the western half of the state for heavy rainfall, damaging winds and large hailstorms over the next several hours. And a warning remains in place for this large area of the state. Heavy rainfall is expected tonight and into early Monday morning. 6-hourly totals of between 40 and 70 millimetres are possible. We could see even heavier falls of up to 100 millimetres. A flood watch has been issued with all of that rain for Gippsland, Central and Northern Victoria. There's a moderate flood warning for the King River and a minor flood warning for the Avoca River. So we see showers and thunderstorms continue across the state tomorrow. Heavy falls are expected around our central and northeastern areas. It will be staying mild to humid and warm with southerly winds in the west. They will extend across the state throughout the day. Closer in, rain throughout the morning and afternoon. There is also the chance of a thunderstorm in there. Temperatures are in the low 20s with southerly winds. Rain with a possible storm in the city, 20 overnight. tonight before a top of 22 degrees. We're finally dry by Tuesday, partly cloudy, 25 degrees. Wednesday is mostly sunny, 26, partly cloudy on Thursday, 25. Friday jumps up to 31 degrees. A shower or two on Saturday, 23, and next Sunday, cloudy, top of 25, but rain and storms for tomorrow, 22 degrees. Blake.
More of it to come. Thank you, Melina. That is 7 News. Thanks for making us a part of your Sunday. From the Melbourne News team, have a good night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.